This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking Banks Europe. My name is Matteo Rizzi. I'm the executive producer of the show. And today we talk about Croatia. It's a format that we invented, I want to say, 12 to 18 months ago. We're going to look inside the fintech ecosystem with some of the movers and shakers of that particular space and try to learn a little bit more. I'm here with Luka and Nikola, and as a tradition, let's give them a couple of minutes to introduce themselves to our audience. Luka, welcome to Breaking Banks Europe.
Thank you very much, Matteo. Hi, everyone. My name is Luka. Now, where to start? I have done so many things in my life that sometimes it's very hard to get the context. But basically, right now, as of the last couple of years, I'm an investor, either an angel or basically like a professional investor that invests in early stage startups, more specifically in the fintech space, more even specifically in the Web3 and fintech space. My background is mostly entrepreneurship, but I've spent like almost a decade in a large corporation. And yeah, basically I'm an early participant of the Croatian, aka Balkan startup ecosystem since early 2000s, let's call it like this. So that's me. And I do a bunch of other stuff, but mostly in and around startups. That's me.
Thank you, Luka. Nikola Škorić, welcome to Breaking Banks Europe as well.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Nick. I'm a founder and CEO of the biggest Croatian crypto brokerage and payment processor. I started doing crypto in 2014. So yeah, one of the early adopters, and we try to make it as easy as possible for people to buy and sell crypto. Our payment processor is now integrated in the biggest Croatian retailer, so you can basically and several others bigger players in Croatia. So in Croatia, you can now buy basically anything for crypto. I also do a lot of conferences and mingle with the guys in the wider fintech ecosystem in Croatia.
Great. So let's start by share a little bit. When did it all started? Because there are some milestones that are pretty easy in the global fintech space, like 2013. 2008, level 39 launched in London. There are a bunch of other dates like this. I know in Italy, for example, 2015, we launched the first global fintech conference. That was Fintech Stage, by the way. So there are a few dates like this, right? My experience in the Balkans is with actually Intesa Sanpaolo. We organized a bunch of events, over there. They had a format called Novaton, that took place in a few of the Balkan countries. But share with us a little bit. There is there like a pivotal moment where banks made this realization that collaborating with other type of players, or maybe it was an intuition from the central bank, who are the movers and shakers, and when the ecosystem sort of realized that it became one. Maybe Nikola first.
Well, I think this is a really hard question, and the easiest answer to it is probably not yet, because I don't have a date in my mind, and I would be inclined to say that we still are in the situation that communication and cooperation between banks and fintech space is in its infancy. For instance, of course, we in crypto industry had a lot of issues with obtaining bank accounts, and this changed, say, 1 year ago. So it's really hard to say for now, is it just a phase, or are we done with troubles? Because, for instance, our company went through like more than 20 banks in Croatia. All of them closed our bank account because we were high risk or whatever. And we were, as I mentioned, we are doing some we are pushing really hard for our legitimacy. Working with the retailers, working with big institutions. Croatian Post allows you to buy and sell crypto with us. So we are putting really a lot of effort into showing that we are legit, that we are regulated, that we are easy to cooperate with. But we still, let's say, for last year, we've had success in establishing some stable partnership with banks. I would say that situation is quite similar for other fintechs, because talking to colleagues, I know that they are really afraid of banks. And if we are looking to find the date when the cooperation started, then being afraid is probably not the best sentiment. If you're afraid of your partner, then the cooperation is probably not very good. But let's say in last year, we have been seeing some serious progress. Both banks opening up a bit, and the regulators coming out also, which is probably connected to each other, because when we tried to start, when we were starting in 2014, it was really hard to sit at the same table with the regulator. And now I can see that startups and fintech companies starting right now can do it much more easier, and I'm sure that banks are aware of this. So maybe answer to your question is, let's say, in the last year. I cannot put a finger on it, and it's maybe just a phase. We'll see. Ask me that in few years.
Luka, what's your take?
I'm going to do the opposite of Nikola, because I'm going to broaden the spectrum a little bit. Nikola is talking about crypto, and I've been in a startup space for a little while, and I would say that this kind of collaboration, or let's say acceptance of fintech startups, OTT, everything which is over the top, building things on top of this, started in the last 2 or 3 years, 3 most likely. And I think that crypto is just the newest. The reason why they're afraid is because they don't understand it fully, because it's a direct opposite of what banks are all about, or were all about up until very recently. So you have regulations, PSD2, you have SEPA Instant, you have a lot of new things being pushed onto their table, and banks being, let's say, one of the oldest, institutions in this civilization, kind of have a hard time to kind of adapt. But when it comes to startups, they have been taking note for a long while. And I would say that the first touch points and the first understanding that they will need to play nicely with new players, the up and comings, came into realization like 2 or 3 years ago. 3 most likely. You had companies like Revolut, Monzo, N26, neobanks, which basically kind of opened up the field for that. Crypto, they will start understanding probably when the regulators and us as an industry, crypto industry, starts kind of fixing some of the bad messaging and bad things that happened in the last, let's say, couple of years. And when journalists finally start using crypto not only as a black and white, either as something that criminals use to launder money, or something on the flip side that young millionaires use to make up money. When they understand that this is an infrastructure, that this is kind of a technology that is here to bring improvement on top of the existing, or kind of rebuild it in a new way. So from a startup space, I think you have a lot of innovation initiatives from all of the major banks, globally, but more specifically in Europe and more specifically in our part of the world, Central and Southeast Europe, what they're trying to understand. One thing you need to understand is that banks speak in a very specific language, and in general, including the crypto startups, speak in a different language. So this is like you're speaking Italian and I'm speaking German. I don't speak German, you don't speak Italian. We will never kind of come to terms unless, we start speaking Esperanto or one of us learns the language. So yeah, that's my take.
What is the, and I'm going to stay with Luka. What is the situation in Croatia in terms of like digital banks? You have like some of the big guys like Revolut that opened up, their branches, or it is still a very sort of old style banking dominated ecosystem for now. And the reason why I'm asking is because, Croatia might not, it might not be the most popular fintech ecosystem. You guys are a very known football ecosystem because everyone, since the last World Cup, I think the popularity of the country sort of spiked, and actually I think you lost against the world champ, so it was a very honorable game. So what's the current situation in terms of the infrastructure?
So basically, we are the recent join of the EU. We're the last one to join the EU. So basically, our market quite significantly. So we have Revolut, which is based heavily vested in Croatia. And I think in the back of my mind, a large number of people in Croatia have a Revolut account. And most recently, you are now allowed to take your full salary into a Revolut and use it as your primary bank. Croatia is a little bit, I would say, a little bit more open because it's a very small country and a lot of big corporate banks are basically using Croatia as a piloting area. So you have Erste Bank, which has a very good mobile, let's say, app, and opening up the bank account and the digitalization of this, which basically forced the other banks to do so. They also started doing the same thing they created their own Revolut type of application. So, let's say the majority of the banks are playing nicely with those disruptors and incumbents, and basically a lot of things changed in the last couple of years to kind of get rid of the bureaucracy and to get rid of the need to come in a physical location and sign contracts remotely and things like this. It is still far away from the ideal, so we're nowhere close to some modern countries that have all of these things online, but it's getting there.
Nikola, you want to build up?
Yeah, so I do agree with Luka. There definitely, I see, at least in my social circle, I see that Revolut usage, for instance, is expanding rapidly. Now, I haven't seen. I'm quite sure there are no general statistics for general use for general population in Croatia. I see there is a lot of chatter on internet portals about being able to receive your paycheck to Revolut and stuff like that, but I haven't seen the numbers. But this move to euro in the last month has changed a lot, and I would really like to see those statistics, because we know, for instance, that card payments skyrocketed because of switch from Croatian kuna to euro, and I know that some people that were really reluctant to use Revolut are starting to use it around me. Also, statistics from Aircash, which is Croatia's biggest wallet, also confirmed that their usage skyrocketed in the last month, and these changes are probably here to stay. So pushing Croatia in eurozone probably did heaps for moving of Croatian payment system and banking system toward digital banks. Now, the second thing that's going to really help this with moving to euro is the fact that now digital banks from the eurozone can offer their services to Croatian customers much more easily. So I guess that Revolut challenges, as for instance N26, which is still not available in Croatia, will probably move into this market in the foreseeable future. So I guess that we will see the speeding up of this move towards digital banks, because there is simply no reason anymore to use the incumbents. As Luka said, they are trying really hard to offer fully digital services, but you still have to you still cannot do a fully digital onboarding because they are still regulated in Croatia. So yeah, I expect that this move towards digital banks and mobile wallets will just speed up.
Actually, I just realized that it is not, it is not very common, to speak with sort of players or digital players, and especially financial services digital players that have witnessed a migration, such a fundamental migration to the local currency, to euro. And maybe it would be interesting to understand, okay, we mentioned the passporting of the European license, so that seems very reasonable. But what else, in terms of opportunities and challenges? For example, when in most of the countries, when euro comes, real estate prices skyrockets, for example. But at the same time, there is a much bigger opportunities for financing and credit, because all of a sudden, there is no risk, there is no currency risk, So first, two questions, actually. Where are you in this in this transition? And what are the big changes that you saw in the ecosystem beside the ones that you already mentioned? Luka?
I think it's very hard to say, because we just joined like 30 days ago. We just joined, and we are in the transitional phase. But we had Slovenia, which is our first neighbor, and we were all kind of traumatized by their experience, because their prices of real estate and the prices in general kind of inflated a little bit. But at the same time, we're going through quite a turbulent times, so it's very hard to distinguish which is which. Are the prices higher? Did the prices kind of rise because of the inflation and because of the shocks and the pending, prices, or because of euro? And I think this might be the best to, kind of introduce euro in a sense, because all of these things will blend. I don't think that the majority of the Croatians understand what kind of implications this brings, because it opens up a lot of possibilities which we are just now opening up. When you have the same currency as the rest of Europe, you can compare the prices. You can basically shop with your wallet or change the jurisdiction, let's call it like this. If I can easily switch my pension fund from a okay, I'm not sure if this is still depending on the local regulations, but if this is if the same currency is used throughout Europe and in Croatia, we are now more aware of the things that we are getting locally in the ecosystem, which is in Slovenia, Austria, and the neighboring countries. So I think that this is yet to be determined. We're barely seeing the impact of it, and right now we're mostly focused on the rounding, basically because of the ratio of kuna and euro. People are now, inflating the price, increasing the price of coffee, because it's easier to kind of round up, and everybody's focusing on that and the inflation of prices. And I think that the normalization of the market will kind of happen in the next, let's say, 1 to 2 years, and we will see the first impacts of that. But one of the things that I see right now is that I can now, for example, freely and easily check the prices of a MacBook Pro in Austria and compare them easily, and realize, oh, I'm paying 30% more than someone living 200 kilometers from me, and this is not fair. And we
is
need
that
to
the case, actually, or you're just making an example?
No,
okay.
That is the case. That is the case. So in some cases, even more. So I just used this example because most recently, I think last week, I did I did this. I was looking for this specifically, and the prices are between 20 and 30% more on Apple products, just because they had this kuna versus euro kind of barrier in a sense. So
Great.
yeah, I think it's going to go down for the.
So it's I must confess, I've been so busy and sort of like traveling so much in this beginning of the year that I actually did not realize, how big changes, the Croatian ecosystem was going on. Anyway, guys, just stay with us because it's time for a short break, and we are coming back talking about more emotion, more events, and more on Croatian ecosystems. Stay tuned. That's a wrap.
Do you want to be part of Breaking Banks Europe? Reach out and learn more about the opportunity to be featured in one of our shows. With over 1.6 million listeners and counting, Breaking Banks Europe is bound to become the place to advance critical dialogue in Europe and the UK fintech scene. Reach out on Instagram or Twitter at Breaking Banks EU, or go to www.provoke.fm.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 160 of Breaking Banks Europe, the Croatian ecosystem. I'm here with Nikola and Luka. Nikola, we were talking about this big Euro transition that happened like 30 days ago, clearly super fresh. We just now discovered that, Luka was mentioning like big difference in pricings. Also potential huge benefits with, banking passporting, but you wanted to add a bit of color. What's your take on this, or what you wanted to add?
So what we experience with this transition to euro is a very interesting phenomenon, quite akin to the Chinese syndrome we've seen the last 10 years. So the fact is that Croats really like their real estate. That's their go-to investment, and people who have a lot of cash are not really fond of putting it in banks. They like to keep it in paper. So now we have a situation that quite a lot of people had loads of paper Croatian kunas, and they had to, either spend it, put it in a bank, push it through a currency exchange, and a lot of them decided to put it into real estate, to basically start buying real estate in cash. And this is a process that has skyrocketed the prices of real estate in Croatia. So for the last few years, we were really scared about Europeans coming, buying real estate, and then prices started skyrocketing before we entered Eurozone, just because of this process. So now we have this schizophrenic situation that people cannot afford their real estate anymore, their flats, and people who are investing in real estate usually do not rent them. So now we have those Chinese empty cities. We see that a lot in Croatia right now. So switching to euro in the middle of crisis and in such a culture that is ours, we see really some funny situations.
Super interesting. And I suppose that this sort of digitization of financial services, like the potential for innovation, there is a reason why I wanted to shed some light on the Croatian ecosystems, is because in a couple of weeks I'm coming over to Moneymotion, which is I don't know if there are many like fintech events in the country, and certainly sort of catalyzing some of the other like neighbor countries. But Nikola, talk to us a little bit, and thanks for having me, by the way. I'm really excited to come over. Talk a little bit about this event, and what are we going to talk about?
Sure. So, of course, Luka and I are, doing a lot of conferences and events both in Croatia and regionally. And what we lacked is basically a place to hear people like you. There are a lot of local events that do Croatian people. So there are a lot of fintech and banking and card and payment and whatever conferences that bring local speakers. But to hear interesting people from all over Europe and from all over the world in Zagreb, from all of these industries, so banking, payment, fintech, and crypto, there was no event like that, and we wanted to create it for ourselves. I wanted to mingle with both bankers and payment people and fintech people from all over Europe to create some opportunities for new businesses to start new cooperations, start to hear people like you. Your experience, your bio is amazing, and not having people like you in Zagreb, I think, was a big problem. And when we started the conferences, we started producing. We didn't know what the reaction would be, and we were amazed. Because it seems that we hit the spot. There was this. Everybody was missing a conference like this. For instance, we are now in the process of having 3 of top 5 banks in Croatia as sponsors or organizers. And we are guys from. We started this podcast with discussion of cooperation between fintechs, crypto, and big banks, and now we have a conference where we are cooperating together. That's how badly we needed a conference like this. That's basically the main motivation.
Luka, I wanted to talk a little bit about the investment ecosystems in investment ecosystem in the country. Because you're an investor, you're a VC, both angel, seed, and probably a little bit more mature. I understand that fintech is one of the theses in which you invest in. Are they already some investors that are specialized in fintech, or for the moment, fintech is just one domain of investment for generic tech VCs in the country? I'm talking about local investments.
Yeah, so we're still, Croatia and the wider region, Central and Southeast Europe, with a predominantly Western Balkans, it's still in its nascent phases. So there's no specialized VCs as of yet. You have general VCs, which basically focus on early stage investments, but with a very general thesis. You have a couple of crypto-focused VCs, you have a couple of generalist VCs, but that's it. There's though a lot of, or quite a handful of angel investors who are specializing in specific verticals, and fintech being one of them, just because they came from that area. They had an exit, or they had they're building a major company in that spread. So the market in Croatia is still very underdeveloped and underserved, although it is a significant improvement from only 4 or 5 years ago. Now you have 3 venture capital funds which are focusing specifically on Croatia, and then the rest of the region. And before there was only one, and before that it was barely that. What we are waiting for is someone like fund managers coming out of Croatia, specifically focusing on Croatia, which we still don't have. But Croatia is a very small country, so barely 4 million people. I think even below 4 million people now. So it's hard to kind of justify that with the traditional means. But at the same time, we have a couple of outliers, which basically may put us on a map. You have major breakthroughs in major companies which are trailing to become unicorns, or already are unicorns, which started in the last, let's say, decade or so. So the market is still wide open. There's a lot of regional VCs investing in Croatia, but it's very hard because you don't know the local ecosystem. You don't know it's very hard to do due diligence. And this is an overall thing. Yeah,
sure. And as a follow-up question, Luka, how easy and friendly is Croatia for entrepreneurship? Because we always have the example of the Estonian ecosystem, for example, just to name one that is at least in that side of Europe. that actually have invested a lot of money in the infrastructure, in the identity, like becoming the door from non-European companies to enter Europe and so forth. Is there any like a specific infrastructure that has been set up or in a process of to actually foster entrepreneurship?
Yeah, this is a little bit it is much better than before, significantly better than before, but at the same time, it has still a lot of hurdles that you need to jump through in order to kick off as an entrepreneur. The good part of this is that a lot of people from these areas are used to circumventing and crossing the barriers or trying to find exploits in the system to find and arbitrage their opportunities. But at the same time, it is quite easy to open up a company in Croatia now, as opposed to a couple of years back. You have this simple form of a limited liability company you can open up within a week or two. The digitalization is more and more, widespread, so you can get basically part of the bureaucracy done. Although there is a lot of downsides for this, because some instruments that exist in modern markets, specifically to startups, like convertible loans or different kinds of investment instruments, are non-existent. At the same time, angel investors are not not pushed, but let's say incentivized to invest in early stage startups in Croatia. For example, in UK and Germany and some other countries, you have like a tax break if you invest up until, I think it's 100,000 or 200,000 per year in early stage investment companies. So I would say that one of the things that is pushing this forward is blockchain companies, which they don't care about the jurisdiction, more or less. And Croatia has a little bit of a, let's say, lenient approach to that. So there's more and more blockchain companies working in the area, and hopefully are going to thrive in the next couple of years.
If I can add, there's one really big development in last 2 years, and that is also the regulators reaching out to the industry. So both the Croatian National Bank and basically our SEC opened up their innovation hubs. And they're really reaching out to the industry. They're going to conferences. They're speaking at panels, mingling with the industry, and they are really opening up this a really hard nut of starting a fintech, starting a regulated fintech in Croatia. It takes, for instance, to get an EMI license in Croatia, it takes probably more than a year and a half. But having guys that issue EMI licenses at conferences, talking to people, you can basically, during the conference, drink something with them and, just chat a bit, or you can start a sandbox application and do some informal discussions. This is really making a really big change and really big impact on the Croatian fintech ecosystem. We will, in fact, on our conference, we will have a whole panel just presenting the innovation hubs from both of our regulators, and people will be able to ask questions, and you will be able to talk to the guys after the session, and find out everything that you want. Like just a few years ago, this was impossible. When I started our company in 2014, I sent an email to the National Bank, asking them, what are we going to do about crypto? How do we regulate this? Nobody responded. Now, people starting companies can just, go and talk to the guys on a conference, shoot an email, get a response. This is really, really, really big difference.
Amazing. Actually, as the last point, how passionate I am about talent, and if I put myself, in the shoes of someone who has to develop a 4 million people ecosystem. If there is one thing that I want to make sure that I would sort of focus my attention on is, the relationship between innovation and talent and academia, and making sure that I have good developers. Actually, the fact that now I wonder whether or not it is an opportunity or a challenge, the switching currencies, but how is the talent infrastructure in terms of developers and even simply entrepreneurs and management and business in the country?
If I can start, so the infrastructure is really open because we are a small country. Everybody knows everybody. So just 2 weeks ago, I was with a colleague from our blockchain association. We were invited to the biggest computer science faculty in Croatia to give talks, and that's an opportunity for us to build direct relationships with the student there, to showcase our work and to tell them how they can join the industry and what they can do with us. So there are no formal vehicles, or they are just starting to be built. There are some mentoring programs on several universities or faculties, but they are just right now starting. But it's a relatively small ecosystem, so we can talk to. We are constantly talking to the students. In the last few years, we also started seeing some fintechs sponsoring some smaller universities or local universities, which is really, really, really important because not everybody can come and study in the capital. All of the best talent went to capital to study. Now we see some fintechs supporting local universities and faculties, and this is really important. So to answer your question, the infrastructure on one hand is only now being built, but on the other hand, since it's a small industry, we already see a great deal of communication directly with students.
Luka, we always say that as an investor, you mainly invest in talent and the team, right? And the earlier is the business you invest in, the greater the focus on talent has to be, because they have to have the capability to pivot, to adapt, to fast fail, and so forth. So what do you think of the talent situation in the country?
Since I have a little bit more experience when it comes to early stage startups, and especially students, I have a different kind of view because I was basically myself involved in building some of these facilities. So for years now, most of the faculties and universities they have their own programs. Started from Smart Up back in 2014 to Faculty of Electronic Engineering having their own incubator and accelerator. Basically, everybody now doing hackathons. By the way, Money Motion will have a student-focused hackathon. So basically, students will have a time to opportunity to kind of tackle and build or try to build something on the open banking, embedded finance, and even maybe crypto during the duration of the conference. What I'm trying to say is that Croatia, because we have a very good talent, developer talent, they have been targeted for years now, since 2013, maybe even earlier, with global incubators and accelerators, and then this kind of spilled over to the university. So you have each regional university having their own version of some sort of a startup competition or some sort of a incubator inside of that, including the University of Osijek, University of Zagreb, Dubrovnik, Rijeka, Split, etc., etc. So what I'm saying is that the talent is being developed on a regular basis, and most of the sentiment of the young, smart students, instead of going and working for a bank or a big telecom or a big corporate, they are opting more and more for building something of their own as their first step, because they saw and understood that this is the best way and the fastest way to learn. And come mid of their, kind of educational journey, what is happening is that they have now more experience than ever, and they're getting jobs or offers, at least, to, global companies like Amazon, Google, etc. So I would say that the talent here is pretty good, and it's all due to, induced activities throughout Croatia. And it's attracting more and more talent from the region, specifically the non-EU region, because There's a lot of Bosnian, Serbian, Macedonian, Montenegrin teams who sometimes relocate, student teams who sometimes relocate or apply to a hackathon in Croatia just to get, the full scope of the, what you can do if you're in, I don't know, SEPA or, EU.
Yeah, I also heard that in Dubrovnik there is a huge and a growing community of digital nomads, right, Luka?
Oh, yes. This is the case for Dubrovnik, Split, Zadar, Šibenik, Pula. So all of the coastal cities, because they have a really good climate, the quality of life, specifically. And especially during the COVID times, they have a significant uptake with digital nomads because people relocate there. The climate is extremely good. The prices are still well below the European average, and internet and basically the local ecosystem is pretty good. So this is in the last couple of years, this is in significant uptick. Yeah.
I see a lot of similarities with Portugal, where I live, and Renata also is based there. That they almost tried and they managed in 10 years to put Portugal on the map of the world startup ecosystem. And it is actually there are certainly a few elements of that recipe that I really hope. You guys will inspire yourself from, because for small countries you need to find always your angle, right, to attract entrepreneurs. And there are no small countries, there are only dumb countries, as I like to say. So if you give yourself the opportunity to as you guys are to be open and to foster initiatives like the ones that we are all going to live in a couple of weeks from now, I think that Croatian ecosystem has a brilliant future in front. Luka, Nikola, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for inviting us.
And guys, let's share the address of Money Motion. Please, Nikola, share the website of the conference.
It is money-motion.eu. Oh, sorry, Nikola.
Yeah, money-motion.eu. Yeah.
Great, guys. Thank you very much. And let's repeat the dates. So it's going to be in March.
Yes, 9th and 10th of March 2023 in Zagreb. Yes.
Great, guys. See you in beautiful Zagreb. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
And it's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with FinTech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.